Welcome to Petsadena. Let's talk about your puppy's first visit. First of all, congratulations. Getting a puppy is very exciting, but I'm sure you must have a lot of questions. That's where your veterinarian comes into play. There are some important topics that we need to cover during your puppy's first visit, so let's get started. First, we'd like to discuss your puppy's vaccination schedule. Core vaccinations are vaccinations that are important for every puppy. Depending on where your pet's on their vaccine schedule, we can determine when they need their next set of core vaccinations. Core vaccinations include the distemper parvo vaccine, which protects your pet against viruses that attack the immune system and the intestinal tract, and they can be very deadly. Another core vaccination is the Bordetella vaccination, which covers a bacteria that affects the respiratory tract, which you probably know as kennel cough. The last core vaccination is the rabies vaccination. The distemper parvo vaccine your puppy will get is typically given every 4 weeks until they're 16 weeks of age or older. There's two types of ways we can administer the Bordetella vaccination. Either they can get an injection or they can get a dose in the nose. The dose in the nose usually is 1 dose and good for 1 year. The injection, typically they'll get an injection and 4 weeks later get a second one, and then it's good for 1 year. The rabies vaccination is given once and it's good for 1 year. Along with your core vaccinations, there's also some vaccinations that we customize for your puppy. They're based on the risk of exposure and your puppy's lifestyle. Speaking of vaccinations, it's important to note that until your puppy finishes their vaccine series, it's important to keep them away from other unknown dogs with unknown vaccine statuses or public areas so that they don't come into contact with some of these viruses that are contagious and potentially deadly. This means that we don't recommend that you take your puppy to public areas such as pet stores, parks, dog parks. Usually we'll recommend that you keep them in your household, in your yard, and potentially have them visit with only healthy vaccinated puppies or healthy vaccinated adult dogs that are maybe from your friends or family. It's important that your puppy finishes their vaccine series the way that we recommend, because at this point your puppy's vulnerable to these viruses, even if they started their vaccine series. When puppies are first born, they will nurse from mom and get some antibodies from mom, so they have some protection at that point. However, as they get older, those protections start to wane and go away, and at that point, we're giving them vaccines to boost up their immunity on their own. There is a time frame, typically before 4 months of age or 16 weeks of age, where a puppy's not fully protected from their mom's immunity or from their own immune system. That's why it's important that we keep them away from public areas and that we continue the series and ensure they get all the shots they need to be fully protected. The next thing I'm going to cover is intestinal parasites. Intestinal parasites can be a nuisance and are very common in puppies. Puppies typically come in having been dewormed previously or given anti-parasite treatment. However, they're in situations where there's multiple dogs housed in one area, and it's very common that they will be exposed to parasites even if they've been dewormed before coming to your household. This is why it's important that we decide on whether additional dewormings will be needed for your puppy, and also why it's important that we check an intestinal parasite screen, looking at a stool sample and looking for parasites to ensure that your pet is not bringing any parasites with them when you've taken them into your household. Diet is another important topic that we're going to cover. It's important that your puppy's on the appropriate diet for their breed and for their age, because we want to make sure that they have the right nutritional content to support their proper growth and development. Depending on whether your puppy is a small breed dog, there are special formulated diets for small breed puppies, mainly for their nutritional needs, but also for their little mouths, so that they have the right size kibble that they're able to chew appropriately. For large breed dogs, it's important that they're on the proper diet for their size because they develop differently. For large breed dogs, their bone development is a lot different than small breed dogs, which requires a specific nutrient content to support them. It's equally as important to keep in mind how often you feed your puppy. Most puppies that are going to be younger, they are going to require feedings more frequently. They have little bellies that fill quickly. They have slowing of their ability to regulate their blood sugar. Smaller breeds in particular are prone to having problems with regulating their blood sugar. So we want to make sure that we're feeding them the appropriate amount of times as well as the appropriate amount of food. Usually your bag of food is going to dictate how much to feed based on your puppy's age and weight as a puppy or age and weight as an adult. Let's get into potty training. There are different ways to tackle potty training, and it depends on your pet's preference and your living situation. Some important things to remember when you're potty training your puppy is you want to make sure that you have a consistent schedule, you're consistent about the way that you have them trained, and that you're able to positively reinforce them with either praise or a treat to make sure that they understand that what they're doing is what you want them to do. Next, we're going to talk about flea and heartworm prevention. We discussed taking care of intestinal parasites, but now we want to make sure we take care of a few other parasites. Fleas and heartworm are problems in the Los Angeles area, and they can potentially cause problems for your pet. When it comes to flea and heartworm prevention, we have several options, and we'll discuss them during your visit. It's extremely important that we set your puppy up for success by making sure we socialize them and we train them appropriately. Socialization helps your puppy build confidence so that they're mentally and physically sound. You can train a dog at any age, but when you begin with a puppy, it's so much easier and you set them up for the expectations that you have as an adult. We like to recommend that you enroll your puppy in puppy socialization classes where they can interact with other puppies, learn to socialize in a safe, controlled environment. A lot of the puppy socialization classes will even go over some basic training tips with you. We like to discuss spaying and neutering your puppy, even though it'll be done much later, because it's important that we discuss the options that we have of when to perform it and sometimes give you an insight of what to expect. There are some diseases that affect specific breeds, so it's important that we discuss those depending on your pet's breed so that you can take preventative measures. Overall, your puppy's first visit is really about making sure they have a long and happy life. Thank you for choosing Petsadena.